Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming to tonight's Zero Waste Home program. I'm Judy Scamato, and I'm the Assistant Director here at Perrott Library. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little bit about a new initiative here at the library. It's called the Library of Things, and it's an alternative to purchasing items you might only need occasionally or even just once. Like all things we offer here at Perrott, the Library of Things is free and available to all our patrons. To see what types of things we have available to check out, visit our website at perrottlibrary.org. On the home page, you click on Borrowing at the top, and the third item down is Library of Things. If you scroll down on the page, you can see the types of things that we offer, everything from board games to Blu-ray players, bounce house, croquet kits, and more. We'll be adding new items as we go along, and we welcome your suggestions. Our website is in the chat. And also I'll put my contact information if you have any questions about, how do I do it? If you were to click on more info under any one of the items, it takes you right to the catalog. And if the item is holdable, you can place a hold. If it's not holdable, it will tell you that. And then you just call us and say you'd like to check something out. Some of the items are more expensive, so they're not holdable. You just have to call and let us know you're coming over. So we have quite a variety, but it's growing all the time, and we look forward to you using it. Now, over to Julie DesChamps, who is the founder and chair of Waste Free Greenwich, who will introduce tonight's panel.
Thank you so much, Judy. I love the Library of Things. I've been using it myself and just borrowed a few things a few weeks ago. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight, and welcome to the Zero Waste Home. As Judy mentioned, I'm Julie DesChamps, the founder and chair of Waste Free Greenwich. We are a grassroots nonprofit established in 2019. Our mission is to engage, educate, and empower the Greenwich community to waste less through our 6 R's, which are refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, recycle, and rot, with a focus at home, school, and work to address the growing waste crisis here in Connecticut. Whoop. Okay, our waste system is at a critical point. Connecticut was once self-sufficient, but now an estimated 40% of our state's 2.4 million tons of trash generated annually is exported out of state. Landfills are reaching capacities and incinerators are aging and closing, and Greenwich is not immune. The Peekskill, New York incinerator, where Greenwich's trash is burned, is one of the oldest incinerators in the entire country, and its permit will expire in only 2 years. Municipalities like ours face rising tipping fees, and these are driven by disposal rates and transportation costs. And these escalating costs will ultimately fall on residents and small businesses. This is really an unsustainable system. It has negative impacts on our 3 Ps, not only for our pocketbooks, but also on people and the planet. Burning trash is harmful to the environment and public health, especially in environmental justice communities exposed to disproportionate levels of toxic pollutants from incinerators and diesel emissions. Further, landfills are the 3rd largest source of methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas. But we can all do something to change course away from this unsustainable system towards a zero waste model. And you just heard from Judy about how to incorporate one of the 6 R's into your life. That's reuse through the Library of Things. It's a great way to reduce household waste, save money, and promote community through a sharing community. And now you'll hear from 4 of our newest members of Waste Free Greenwich team who will touch on other strategies to build a zero waste lifestyle, covering everything from smart shopping and clothing repair. Sorry, I'm off. Just gonna click back to the slide, sorry. Covering everything from smart shopping and clothing repair to mindful eating and recycling right. These presentations are a follow-up to the mini demos that we offered at our spring Rethink Waste Fair. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Maggie Clayton. Maggie is a native of Oklahoma and relatively recently moved to Greenwich from Maui. Before Maggie joined the Waste Free Greenwich team, she enjoyed careers as a professional ballerina and a yoga instructor and yoga studio owner. She has a bachelor's degree from the University of Oklahoma Health Science Center. She recently finished her certification in green chemistry for sustainability at Yale, and she'll be pursuing her master's at Columbia in sustainability science this fall. Without further ado, let's hear Maggie's insights on conscious consumers, substitutions, and waste.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Thanks to Parrot Library and to Waste Free Greenwich. I thought it was appropriate to start my talk with a book. So this is The Garbage Barge. It's one of my daughter's favorite books. It's a really fun story about basically what you would think it is, garbage. And it was from 1987. Basically, the garbage got shifted around for 187 days. And it got super stinky. People followed this all over the coast. And eventually the barge was ordered to incinerate the trash. And the moral of this story is don't make so much trash. So very, very relative to what we're talking about tonight. So I'm going to start with, just for kicks, what if your yard was your landfill? Would you rethink waste, and would you consume differently? The number one thing we can do is just prevent waste. The last thing we should be doing is throwing it in the trash. I want to talk just briefly about green chemistry. 96% of the products that we use are made up of chemistry. And green chemistry is just looking at every product from the very start of it and trying to start with non-toxic chemical input, which just is really practical and makes a lot of sense. But the number one principle of green chemistry is waste prevention, which again is very relative to our talk. So it's really geared towards chemists, but I like to take it and make it more practical for everyday life. And I've just really been, for the past 10 months, trying to reduce waste and figure out how I can have less toxic things in my house. So the first thing you need to do is use less and look at your labels. There are certifications, so many certifications on labels now, and starting with B Corps and regenerative. And then just looking for things that aren't in plastic. Try to find glass or aluminum or no packaging options. Here's more, even cosmetics have these certifications. It makes it really easy to shop. Not that we want to buy more. Okay, and then did you know that many household items, we're going to go back to the toxic chemicals or non-toxic, but a lot of regular household items have toxic chemicals. So just start swapping them out and just start being aware of what you have in your house. Life cycle assessment is important for us to mention. It's basically, this is from L'Oreal, the huge international company. They have so many products, but let's take an example of like their shampoo. It would basically be assessing the raw materials that go into their shampoo, figuring out how they can produce it without pesticides, producing it with renewable energy in the production process. They try to use less water. They assess the entire life cycle of the product, right? So less water, less plastic or no plastic, and even concentrating their shampoos into smaller bottles. But it's really relative in all of the products we buy. And just a quick note on circular economy. I'm actually not a huge fan of zero waste. Sorry, you guys, have to be honest. I'm actually a little, it's too extreme for me. So I like to be a little more moderate and just try to do my best and get rid of as much as I can that I don't need. But the circular economy basically does encourage reuse. And recycling is one of the methods, and I'm sure Julie's going to talk about this, but recycling is actually a lot of the stuff we put into the recycling bin does not actually get recycled. The statistic that I believe is the most accurate is 1 to 2% of what we put in the recycling bin gets recycled. So it means use less when you can. So I want to talk a little bit on plastics, because without plastics and toxic chemicals, those are big contributors to waste. True or false, everything on the internet is true. That obviously it's not about plastics. There's a lot of misinformation. So plastics are petroleum-based, the life cycle of plastics. So petroleum-based, there's a lot of chemical inputs. We know that the extraction process itself causes a lot of waste and toxic chemicals. The recycling process is really outdated, and not a lot of what we actually are putting in the bin gets recycled. And if it doesn't get recycled, it's going to the incineration or the landfill. So we can kind of come back to the garbage barge or our Holly Hill transfer station that's getting overwhelmed. And these are little ways that we can all take responsibility and make a difference. Types of plastics, I won't stay on this long. We kind of know there's different types, but just note number 3, PVC, is not able to be recycled. And there's products like yoga mats and rain boots and raincoats that are made with PVC. So look for alternatives like rubber or nature-based solutions there. I want to talk about the pathways that plastic enters the ocean. You can see it from the graph. I won't stay on it long, but this is a plastic beach in Hawaii. Had to bring that one up. But the current is such that all of this plastic comes on a daily basis to this beach, and they have to constantly clean it. And plastic is actually growing into the lava rocks. So why do we care about plastics? Because microplastics micro and nanoplastics are affecting us. They are very pervasive. We inhale them, we ingest them, they get in our skin, and they're proving that there are adverse health effects. Some of the biggest sources of microplastics are obviously paint. Paint is a source of microplastics, which I didn't realize. Oops. But the biggest contributor are all these plastic bottles, and it's a really big problem to tackle. So I'm going to continue from there. If you're doing any remodeling, I want to mention that there's a great store in Greenwich called Little Green, and they have non-toxic, non-plastic paint. So just something that we can all make a difference there. The biggest contributor to microplastics is anti-fouling paint on boats. So that's all the ships that are hauling our stuff back and forth. And just a reminder to skip the single-use plastics, just say no thanks. And we have to address, when we're talking about waste, misinformation and greenwashing. So this is a diagram, paper or plastic. It's kind of an old battle here. But this diagram shows that paper, it causes more greenhouse gas, it uses more resources. Well, what's funny about this diagram is it's made by a company that makes plastic bags. So you can see it's a little ironic that, of course, they want to make the paper look worse when in reality, the the plastic bags are not easily recycled. Not a lot of places take them. Some stores will take bag returns, But just to be aware that greenwashing happens in many areas of products we buy. But which is better, paper, plastic, or reusable? Skip the bag if you can. If not, we should use the recycled cloth reusables. The ones that we buy at Whole Foods or Target that are on the end caps are made from plastic bottles, and those actually contribute more to microplastics. It's a big issue. It's a big snowball. Did you know that synthetic fabrics like polyester contribute to microplastics? So every time you wash your polyester, it's getting plastics into the water. Anyway, so try to stick with plant-based or nature-based like cotton or hemp or jute, things like that. This is just a really quick lesson on plastics. Thermoplastics can be recycled a number of times and then they break down. Thermosets can't. There are plastic alternatives, which is the really cool, good thing. Corn-based, sugar-based. There's clay pipes instead of PVC pipes, and just be on the lookout and encourage people wherever you shop or get your takeout from to use these compostable alternatives. They're a step in the right direction. This is a one-pager from the United Nations, and I think it sums up the plastic issue. We want to close the plastic tap, just really not have any new plastics in our lives, phase out chemicals of concerns, reduce overall plastic use, and improve waste collection. So even at Holly Hill and in our own neighborhoods, we can work on these things. But I think the biggest thing that you and I can do is just reduce the plastics that we're using. And I'll show you some ways to do that. Are there plastic-free options? Yes. So we can phase out household plastics and toxic chemicals. And I just made a quick video. Oh, it's on the next slide, sorry. I think this slide is funny. I took this at Whole Foods, but the carrots that don't have any packaging, they really make you reach for them and really work for them. All the plastic stuff is just down low and in the front. Anyway, and a lot of the plastic products that we're using have PFAS, so we want to get forever chemicals out of our lives whenever we can and use reusable water bottles. Even some of the typical sponges we buy have microplastics, just swap them out. Let me see if I can get this to play. I wanted to show some of the plastic-free alternatives that I found to be the best through trial and error. This is just a metal can, more easily recycled. Shampoo and conditioner bars. There's some that don't even have boxes. This is a box version of shampoo if you prefer that. It's a little bit of plastic, but way less than our normal plastic bottles. This is a conditioner. This is a metal bottle. So again, more easily recycled. Paper deodorant. They even make lotion, other all products in these paper containers. Instead of buying plastic lotion bottles, you can buy the glass lotion and refill it. Also, just buying bars of soap versus plastic pump bottles. Moving on, this is all the hygiene stuff. This is the laundry. I prefer this concentrated version. It isn't plastic, but a lot of people use these dryer sheets, which are washer sheets, which are great. And using dryer balls instead of bounce dryer sheets. In the kitchen, we've got dishwasher detergent. Why would we buy this huge thing if you can just have this little tiny tab? This is my dishwashing soap. I just refill it using, it's like a boxed version of this one. In Ziploc bags, I haven't used in 4 years. Get rid of that plastic. It's an easy one. I use compostable sandwich bags or paper bags. And I even use trash bags made out of corn, derived from corn. And I really just try to not use these at all and use reusable containers instead. Moving on to cleaning products. So I actually make my own cleaners. This one's the baking soda, and it's in an old Parmesan container, easy to shake it out. This is for my refillable. I use this for showers and sinks. Timeox is great. I buy this concentrated bottle. It isn't plastic, but it's I can refill this bottle at least 50 times. So I'm saving not only money, but saving lots of plastic bottles that way. An alternative is just to buy these little tabs and drop them in water. I also wanted to note here are the sponges that are plastic free. I use coconut based. One of the Greenwich pollinator ladies was telling me she grows a loofah plant and cuts the loofah sponge off of the plant. So that's another option. And then we've, of course, got our shopping bags, canvas, produce bags, super helpful. And then just a quick side note, here is my crazy composter that I have. And in the morning, this will all be dirt inside there. So it's helped me reduce my waste significantly. So life gives you lemons, clean with them. We've got the baking soda. I like lemon juice. You can just use lemons. There's one more quick video and then we'll wrap. So I buy the bulk baking soda from Costco, and I actually have a giant ice cream scoop for it. Dump it in. I purposely left my sink super dirty, so this would be easier to show you. Then I also like the lemon juice. Just dump it on and clean away. It worked really well. Cost for your cleaner. Fast forward a little bit on that one, but you can also use vinegar as an alternative. And Thymox, I just showed you that. If you're worried about the viruses and bacteria, it's what 7th generation uses, and it kills 99.9% of viruses and bacteria. I'm going to skip forward. Make sure you compost. Is it hard to divert food waste? No, Peppa Pig does it. And we've got this amazing group at Waste Free Greenwich and Backyard Compost that can show you how to do it if you want to learn. And Julie's mentioned why the composting is good and diverting food waste. So any guess? I started composting or diverting food waste 7 months ago. I've saved almost 600 pounds from the landfill. So we average about 75 pounds of food waste a month. Pretty cool. The little trash can I have calculates that. And Greenwich itself, everyone in Greenwich that's doing all this hard work, you guys have diverted almost 800,000 pounds. And exciting news, Julie might talk about this too, but there's some smart bins coming that will be placed around the town so we can put our food waste there. And also Holly Hill has a collection station. And it's easy. You can drop your stuff at a collection site. And since I've started diverting food waste, I save so much money on trash bags as well. Because I hardly take out my trash. There's only like wrappers in it and it's days before I need to take it out. So start with one action, be a conscious consumer, borrow instead of buy, divert your food waste, and skip the plastic. Just say no thanks. The old adage of think global and act local. So thank you for your time. I know there's lots more fun stuff coming up. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Maggie, for all those incredible tips and ideas for lower waste sustainable swaps throughout your home. Hope that everyone is all ready to try out a few of those. I'd like to now introduce our next Waste Free Greenwich team member who just joined our board as PR chair, Meg Hadley Zimmerman, hailing from DC. Meg grew up in North Carolina and Pennsylvania and then moved to Connecticut in 2019 for an AmeriCorps program. She started her career in environmental education and anti-hunger nonprofit work, and now she works in economic development for the city of Stamford. Meg has a bachelor's degree in behavioral economics from Cornell and is currently earning an MBA from NYU Stern with a specialization in sustainability. She has always loved to make things and fix things, and she especially enjoys sewing with repurposed or secondhand materials. For her recent wedding, she made 8 bridesmaids' dresses out of thrifted bed sheets. So impressive. So let's hear how we can repair, refresh, and rewear to extend the life of our wardrobe. Take it away, Meg.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. Hi everyone. So happy to be here. As Julie said, I like to make things and I like to fix things. I am very interested in fashion, and one of the main points I want to hammer home is that the most sustainable approach to fashion is to take care of and wear the clothing that you already have. And one of the best questions you can ask yourself is, why am I not wearing a particular item of clothing? If you've been hanging on to something for a while, it's in the back of your closet, and you just never find yourself reaching for it when you're getting dressed in the morning, maybe there's a reason there. Maybe there's something you can do to that item of clothing that will make it wearable for you. So could be that the clothing item has something wrong with it. It's ripped or it's missing a piece. It could be that it doesn't fit quite right. It's too big, too small, too long, too short. Or it could be that it is hard to style. It's a funky shape or a funky color, and you don't always know what to match with it. And so you don't wear it as often for that reason. Well, luckily, there are some things you can do on your own, and I want to walk through some really, really simple mending tips. I've talked to people about sewing and mending, and people will say, "Well, I don't mend because I don't sew." But I promise you that some of the most some of the most basic mending tips and mending tricks are things that you can do with no sewing experience, without a sewing machine, with just a couple really simple tools that are cheap, that you might even already have laying around your house, or ask your grandma or your neighbor if you need to borrow some of these things, because I'm sure you have them laying around somewhere. So I want to start by building a basic mending kit, and then I'll show you what you can do with it. So some really simple items to have on hand. Obviously start with some thread and some needles. I find it helpful to have, at the very least, a dark and a light thread. So maybe a black and a white thread, and that can do most mends on most colors of fabric, as long as it's something small and not super visible. Needles are really easy to pick up. A simple pack like this round pack here of these hand sewing needles. If you have trouble threading it, which is completely fair, it can be difficult to thread through the tiny hole of a needle. Most needle packs actually come with a needle threader that looks like this. That makes it easy to get the thread in and out. Some other helpful things to have around, some pins are useful, especially if you're interested in having a piece of clothing altered, taken in or taken out. You can pin it to show what it would look like if it was taken in a little bit, how it would fit your body better. You can use safety pins. That's actually a trick that I like to use if I'm ever taking something to a tailor. I might pin it with a safety pin to show exactly where I want it to take it in, and then the pin won't fall out while I take it to a tailor. Measuring tape is helpful both when completing projects, but also for things like knowing your measurements, like knowing what your waist measurement is or your bust measurement is. If you want to get something taken in, you can use that to tell a tailor or someone who's fixing your clothes what measurement you need, but also can be used if you're, say, looking for thrifted clothes, which I would say is probably the second most sustainable method of looking for clothing, is after your own closet, is buying things secondhand. You can use a tape measure and measure across the flat waistband of a pair of pants, and then without even trying them on, all you have to do is take that flat measurement, multiply it by 2, and if it matches your waist measurement, chances are it'll fit you. Also a seam ripper, a helpful thing to have to help pull some seams apart. Sorry if I'm talking very fast. Feel free to put questions in the chat and I can respond to them when I'm done zooming through this. Also very helpful, an iron and an ironing board. If you don't have space or patience for ironing, you can also use a steamer. It's very effective in getting your clothes to look sharp and nice. Steam is also a little gentler on clothes in the long term. We'll get to some really quick care tips also for the clothing that you already have at the end of this. Now, a couple really quick, easy mends that I promise are easy enough that you can do. I don't know if anyone else remembers the Staples That Was Easy buttons. Oh, sorry, I forgot I added this. A couple additional things on top of the very basic mending kit, helpful to have on hand for specific mending projects: buttons, hooks and eyes, for reattaching or securing parts of clothing that's not fitting quite right, or replacing hardware that was there but is now missing. I'd mention bra inserts. If you are a person with who wears bras and you have clothing items that are hard to wear with the right undergarments, being able to sew in cups can actually make a garment really wearable. Dye. I'm a big fan of dyeing clothes. That's a great tip for something that like it's hard to wear because it's a weird color, or to cover a stain. And also elastic. Elastic can do a lot of things. You can buy a roll for pretty cheap, and you'd be surprised you can use it for like helping tighten the waistband of a pair of pants. Um, some examples of things you can fix really easily. Missing button. That's like the easiest repair out there. I promise you, if you can hold a needle in one hand and hold a shirt in the other, you can sew on a button. Hard to demonstrate on in this setting, but you can look up a YouTube video if you need help figuring out how to tie a knot to get you started. I promise you can sew on a button. Um, a missing hook and eye. You might see this is an eye, and it's missing its hook. It's a very helpful fastener at the top of a zipper, especially. And if you're missing it, that's a very easy thing to reattach. But you can also use it for things like if you have a zipper that's not staying up, you can add a hook and eye to the top of that clasp. That might make that clothing item more wearable. Or if you have like a space between buttons that's gaping, you can add a hook and eye in there. That might make your clothing more wearable. I mentioned earlier, if it's hard to find the proper undergarments to wear on, let's say, a dress that doesn't have a back, but is sort of fitted in the front. Well, if you sew on cups into the inside of that dress, that might make it easier for you to wear that thing. This is something that you can do with just 3 stitches on each cup. One here, one here, one here. I've done this to a lot of my clothing items that I've bought from stores, and it's very practical for me. Might be for some of you. Couple of mends that are easy. If a rip is along a seam, you can fix that pretty easily with what's called a ladder stitch. That's one of the easiest types of holes to mend. If you have a small hole in, say, a knit garment like this, you can fix it in a way. Oh, sorry that this is blurry. You can fix it from the back with a couple quick stitches. It's slightly visible from the front, but if you pick a thread color that matches, you can make it blend in pretty seamlessly. A larger hole is a little harder to fix in a way that's invisible. You can add a patch to the back and sew it on by hand or with a sewing machine. Stains, white shirt, I recommend bleach often, but you can also dye over things, which is also a useful way for making things more wearable. If, say, it's a color you don't like, you can dye it into a color you do like. Oh, that's my timer saying to hurry up. Couple super quickly, slightly harder fixes that you could do with a sewing machine or you could take to a tailor. If something is too long, that's easy to hem. If something is too, oh, sorry, this one's blurry too. If something like a skirt, a dress, a shirt is too big, that's easy to take in on the sides and make smaller. Something like a waistband in a pair of pants, that's easy to take in, make that fit as well. Again, it's helpful to know your measurements. Measuring tapes are helpful for this so that you can tell a tailor what you need done to an item of clothing. I strongly support supporting local tailors. If you don't have the time or the energy to fix some things yourself, which I go to tailors for some things, even though I can fix a lot of things myself. A general rule of thumb is that making something smaller or shorter is easier than making something larger or longer. That doesn't mean you can't, it's just a little harder. In interest of time, I will go very quick. I'll skip a couple of these things. Just want to emphasize, though, it's important to take care of your clothes. Washing on cold is generally better for clothes in the long run than washing hot. Air drying is useful. You can steam, which is sometimes gentler in clothes than ironing. One tip I use sometimes is you can hang it on the shower rod if you're taking a hot shower, and that will kind of steam your clothes naturally. I put this picture here because in the older days, people didn't wash their outer garments as often because they had sturdier undergarments. Obviously, none of us are probably wearing undergarments that look like this, but the general rule applies is if you don't want to wash something as often, wear something under it, and that's the thing that gets washed more often. Cedar chests, great for wool clothing items so they don't get destroyed by moths, and if you still won't wear it, swap it with a friend. We've been talking about possibly hosting some sort of clothing swap. If you can give it to someone else who will use it, that's the best first method. Sometimes you can take, if it has sentimental value and you don't want to get rid of it, you can turn it into a keepsake, like turn your kids' clothes into a sweatshirt or turn your kids' t-shirts into a quilt. Or here's an example of something I made. I took a dress that my aunt used to wear and loved but didn't fit her anymore, and I made her a purse. Um, you can, and then if it doesn't have sentimental value and it's an absorbent good cotton fabric, cut it up into rags, and that will further, to Maggie's point, reduce your disposable paper towel usage in the kitchen, if you have some reusable rags, and then sell it or donate it. Honestly, without getting too far into the weeds of what happens to clothing when you donate it, not all of it necessarily goes to good homes. So I'm honestly a proponent of selling it if you can. And that is the end of my presentation. Sorry for speeding through that. This is a picture of me at my wedding wearing a dress that I made out of a tablecloth. You're welcome to email me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Meg. I'm really inspired to take out my sewing machine. And if you are inspired to, you can take out, you can borrow one from the Perrott Library of Things. And I just want to remind you really quick, if you have questions, please put them in the chat and we will have a Q&A at the end. Our next speaker is Janet Levine. Janet has a bachelor's degree from Cornell University, a master's in nutrition from Syracuse, and a dental degree from Tufts University School of Dental Medicine. She also has a certificate in plant-based nutrition from the T. Colin Campbell Center in Nutrition Studies through eCornell. Her background makes Janet the perfect person to guide us to make healthier, low-impact meals and create a waste-free kitchen. Let's find out how even in the kitchen you can make a difference with Janet.
Thank you, Julie. I'm just switching my slides here. Yeah. I'm a registered dietitian, and I teach people about the health benefits from whole food plant-based nutrition. Plant-based nutrition can both prevent and reverse many of the common chronic diseases that we have in the US. This includes heart disease, type 2 diabetes, gastrointestinal issues, as well as many symptoms related to autoimmune diseases. And tonight, I'm going to be talking about how the foods that we choose to eat can have an impact not only on the health of our bodies, but also on the health of our planet. And I'm also going to be talking about some changes that we can make in our own kitchens that can help to reduce waste. The one food group that has the biggest impact on the environment is animal products. Animal products means all meats, including beef, poultry, fish, dairy, and eggs. There are three big areas that the environment is affected. One is water usage, another is water pollution, and the other is use of land. 1 pound of beef, 1 pound of beef takes 100 times more water to produce than takes to produce 1 pound of grain. 1 cow or 1 pig consumes more than 60 times more water than 1 human does. And there is significant water pollution just from the waste that comes from the livestock that we raise. U.S. livestock generates 20 times more sewage than the entire U.S. population, human population. And the sewage is not well contained or stored or processed, and very often it will have leakage or runoff that goes into the streams and the rivers and pollutes the oceans and then contaminates the fish that we consume. And with it, many of these pollutants include fertilizer, pesticides, and antibiotics, which are frequently fed to the livestock that we are eating. Another issue with the oceans, the ecosystem of the ocean, is fishing. And we have been overfishing in our oceans. In addition, our techniques of fishing have not helped this. For us to produce 1 pound of shrimp for human consumption, 20 pounds of other marine life is killed. And that is because the fishing nets that catch the shrimp also catch other fish and sea life that is in the area. And this includes sea turtles and dolphins and other fish. So, and they're not saved from the fishing nets. Also, bottom trawling damages seafloor habitats. So we've got a lot going on with the ecosystem of the oceans related to fishing. Um, Related to the livestock, more than half of the grain that is grown in the US is fed to livestock that we're raising for our consumption, and nearly 40% of world grain is fed to livestock. Cornell scientists have said that with this amount of grain, we could feed 800 million people, which would help significantly with our problem of world hunger. Now, in making changes with the animal products, this is not something somebody has to do 100%. Small changes can make a difference. And it can, an example is trying to have one vegan day per week where you're not eating animal products. And we could significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, land use, water use, and pollution. The Environmental Protection Agency states that with regard to food waste, which is another issue we have, a family of four in the U.S. May spend $3,000 on uneaten food annually. This is food that is not eaten and is wasted. And they say also that 1/3 of the food in the U.S. goes uneaten, and most of it ends up in the landfill. And when food is in the landfill, it produces harmful gases like methane. So what can we do in our kitchen to reduce waste? I would start with when we make our shopping list. Before you go shopping, make a list and stick to it. Check your pantry and your fridge and your freezer while you're making the list so you're not repeating and buying things that you already have, and so that you're also monitoring what you may be running low on. It's a good idea to include in your shopping list ingredients from 2 or 3 recipes that you plan to make that week so that you're not finding you have to run to the store again and possibly buying things again that you do not need. And one of the big things is do not shop when you are hungry. Most of us, if we're hungry, we will come home with a lot more food than we actually need. Now, what I have here are a few storage tips related to food storage that can reduce waste. When you have leftovers from your dinner, you can put them in a container, label it, and date it, and put it in the fridge. I recommend putting the most recent food leftovers in the back of the shelf, and the more recent, the ones toward the front that way are the ones that are older. If it's been in the fridge for more than 3 days, and you haven't eaten it, you can always freeze it and most of these food items can go into the freezer. You can extend the shelf life of nuts from 3 months at room temperature to 6 months in a refrigerator or a year in the freezer. So if you do buy large volumes of nuts, like we can get at Costco, and you're not going through them quickly, you may want to consider refrigerating or freezing them. Then there are certain foods that start to look pretty bad after a while, and one example is bananas, and most of us throw them away. But you can peel the banana and freeze them in a container, and then use it at another time to make a banana bread, or it's great when you make a smoothie or a frozen fruit sorbet because they're so sweet. And then you can take certain greens that sometimes start to look not so great, like celery or kale, and they're still good. It doesn't mean that they're rotting. And the nutrient value is still good. They can be used in soups or stews. Then there are the ingredients that we all use sometimes in a recipe, and you only use some, and you're not planning to use the rest of it. An example would be tomato paste. Usually you have this can of tomato paste and you need 2 or 3 tablespoons and half the can is left over. And what you can do is take an ice cube tray and put a tablespoon of the remaining in each of the compartments of the ice cube tray, freeze it, then remove them, put them in a container, label, date, and put them in the freezer. Now, it may be a month later that you need the tomato paste again, and you don't have to open another can, and you didn't waste what was in it. This also goes for chipotle peppers. If you use them, they come in a small can, and most often you're not going to use more than 1 or 2. When you've got 4 or 5 left over, same thing. You put them into a ice cube tray and freeze them and then store them and put a label and a date on them. And also with herbs, sometimes I'll buy an herb, fresh herb like thyme or parsley, and I don't use it all, and I don't have plans to use it. You can chop it, put a tablespoon in each of the compartments of an ice cube tray, add some water, freeze it, and then when you're ready to use it, you take the cube out, put it in the fridge, and let it defrost. One point about the refrigerator is it should be kept at 40 degrees or lower. It shouldn't go above 40 degrees. The inside of the refrigerator door is the warmest area, and the top shelf is the next warmest area. So products like meats should definitely be kept on the bottom shelf where it's most likely to be coldest. There's a website here which is really great, and it talks about how to maximize the quality and the shelf life of all food products packaged. They talk about vegetables, fruits, meats, dairy, and how to store them properly. And I recommend looking at that. Date labels is something that's really one of the biggest contributors to food waste. And it's mostly because people don't understand about the labeling. Most of us see a label on a can, a date, or on a package, and we think, oh, we have to throw it out because it's at that date. But usually there are dates like sell by, best by, use by, and most of them are indicating the date of peak quality. And most of these products will last sometimes for months or even years beyond that date. So it's not necessary to throw away. Products like fresh meat is a different story. Fish and meat may last for 2 days, 1 to 2 days. And the best way to test those really is to smell them and to look at them. But you can take a can of low acid canned good and it can last for up to 5 years. There is only one product. There is no regulation that food has to be dated. These packages have to be dated. It's all voluntary, except for one, which is required to follow the date, and that is infant formula. So you are supposed to throw that out after the date, but no other products have this requirement. And that this information, there's more detail on this at the USDA.gov food safety. So the key takeaways from this little presentation that I've given is eat fewer animal products when you can, reduce food waste with some of these tips for the kitchen, and keep in mind that each of us can make some small changes in our kitchen and it will make a difference. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Janet, for helping us understand the impact of our food print and for the many ideas to make mealtime healthier, lower impact, and waste-free. I am going to share my screen. Okay. Now it's time to ask the Waste Wizard how to recycle right. I'll highlight some tools to help you recycle correctly, address common challenges, and share how you can reduce trash significantly through recycling and composting. But first, A quick note about our zero waste hierarchy. Note that recycling is not at the top. It is not the highest and best strategy. And Maggie alluded to this, that not everything in our bin actually does get recycled. We really do tend to focus on recycling and composting, but really they should be tapped only after rethinking and designing, reducing, and reusing. And so those tips and tools that were touted by Judy, Maggie, Meg, and Janet should really be adopted and implemented before recycling and composting. So now, as much as I love dressing up as the Waste Wizard, I'm actually here to talk to you about our amazing online search engine with the same name. The Waste Wizard is customized to the Greenwich community and designed to help you recycle, donate, and dispose of hundreds of items correctly and put an end to wish cycling. So residents input the material into the search field you see here, and the Waste Wizard instructs what bin to put it in, locations where to donate, recycle, and repair, notes on the material's toxicity or issues with recyclability, and it even lists some upcoming events. The tool is offered in English, Spanish, and in Japanese, and it's available on multiple websites, Waste Free Greenwich, Public Works, and Greenwich Green and Clean, to increase accessibility in the community. We publicize the Waste Wizard and other waste reduction efforts a number of ways. In a few weeks, you'll be receiving this tax flyer you see at left. In the center is our educational flyer that's available at Town Hall, the libraries, and our partner organizations. And there's also digital resources like the websites of Public Works and Waste Free Greenwich that are really chock full of information, and you can of course sign up for our weekly newsletter. So now you know where to find the Waste Wizard and other helpful tools. So I'd like to shift gears to some of those recycling challenges. So our first recycling no-no are tanglers. And these are items like plastic bags, hoses, wire hanger, clothing, electric cords, and holiday string lights. And these all get tangled up in the recycling equipment. And you can see that at top right. And what happens at these recycling centers is they have to stop operations several times a day, and their employees literally climb up into the machines and pull out all the things that got tangled up there. So this really increases the cost of recycling, and it's a hazard for those workers. So I can't overemphasize the importance of not bagging your recyclables. Those items destined for the blue bin should always be loose. They shouldn't be bagged or bundled or boxed. Plastic bags are a major source of contamination and expense. Workers do not open the bags, and the machines aren't designed to pry them open. So recycling that is bagged will be trashed. If you do have plastic bags or any other flexible plastics, you can reuse or recycle them at grocery stores and retail stores that accept them. And you can see at center, there's a list of those accepted materials. This flexible plastic is actually made into composite decking, benches, and other products. And as for other tanglers, you can see them in that bottom right. Hoses and electric cords should be in the trash. Wire hangers, you can bring them back to most dry cleaners. They really appreciate that for reuse. Or you could put them in the scrap metal collection area at Holly Hill to be recycled correctly. Clothing and other textiles can be donated or recycled through our municipal textile recycling program, which I'll cover in a few minutes. And there's a collection for broken string lights around the holiday season. Single-use takeout items create a lot of confusion and considerable wish cycling. It's always best to use durable, reusable items, as Maggie mentioned, but if you have to use disposables, follow the rules and recycle right. All those paper and compostable items like coffee cups, plates, and containers are often coated, or they have a plastic liner, or they're often food contaminated, so they really should be put in the trash. Polystyrene and styrofoam items are not recyclable in our system. Plus, they are carcinogens and endocrine disruptors, so you really should avoid styrofoam. Plastic utensils and straws are too small, and they slide through all the recycling equipment, causing contamination. So they need to go in the trash too. On the other hand, plastic and metal beverage containers, if clean and empty, can go into the recycling. Plastic clamshells and other plastic takeout containers are okay if they're clean to put into the recycling. You should remove any food or paper from pizza boxes and place them in your blue bin. Even if they have some grease, it's okay. They can go in to the recycling. If in doubt, throw it out. It's always better to throw something out in the trash than contaminate the recycling stream. So while single stream recycling is important, you can make an even greater impact by keeping food and textiles out of the trash. Food scraps make up about 22% of our waste stream, and those are items, and then textiles like clothing, shoes, and linens compose about 6%. By diverting just these two items to reuse, recycling, and composting, we can reduce our trash in Connecticut by almost 30%. This is really the low-hanging fruit. It's super easy to do and effective. So you can cut your food waste by starting your own backyard composting system, and our team can help you learn through our series of workshops with the Greenwich Botanical Center. Food scraps can also be recycled either by subscribing to home pickup through private organics hauler like Natural Upcycling. You can see their contact info here, or by participating in the Municipal Food Scrap Recycling Program, our Scraps to Soil program. So in June 2020, Waste Free Greenwich worked with the town of Greenwich to launch this food scrap recycling program. Residents separate and collect accepted organic material at home, and they drop it off voluntarily. And to date, residents have successfully diverted over 780,000 pounds of organic material via drop sites at the Holly Hill Transfer Station, Round Hill Community Church, and Living Hope Community Church in Old Greenwich. Natural Upcycling transports all those organics to New Milford Farms, which is about an hour away, to be processed into compost. And then Waste Free Greenwich sponsors a compost give back day in May for all our supporters, and that brings the entire cycle full circle. To further increase participation, the town, in partnership with Waste Free Greenwich, is launching Smart Bin recycling bins at Binney Park and Coscob Park in just a few weeks. Funded by a state grant, these app-controlled, secure collection units offer 24/7 access and improved cleanliness. It makes it super easy for the community to divert food scraps to compost. And you can start to pre-register by downloading the app, and instructions are available on our website. You can just use the QR code there or go to our website. And then in 2020, our close partner, Greenwich Recycling Advisory Board, started a textile recycling program. 95% of textiles can be reused or recycled in some way, so it's really important to keep this valuable resource out of the trash. This program has diverted over 440,000 pounds of textiles from the waste stream, and it's also raised thousands of dollars for recycling initiatives, including the Waste Wizard. There is a new at-home pickup option for Greenwich residents, and there are 4 convenient drop sites throughout town. So thank you for your interest in this evening's program. We hope that you've been inspired to action. To learn more, please visit our website, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our newsletter. And we now welcome your questions. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to spotlight all of you. There are a few questions in here. Let's see, Meg, if we can spotlight you. Okay. Meg, it looks like you actually answered a question in the chat. I don't know if you want to expand on it. I know you've already seen it, but I believe it was about holes in t-shirts that kind of get worn in
Yes.
from rubbing against pant zippers.
Yes, sure. And the response I gave in the chat is that I've dealt with these holes myself before. And unfortunately, with things like small holes, if you're repairing just one, it's not that noticeable. But if you have a lot of holes in the same spot, it becomes a little harder to mend in a way that's not still visible. So some approaches could be, if you're willing to change the shape of the shirt, you could hem it shorter so that that piece of fabric is removed. You could add applique or embroidery to cover it. Visible mending is a very big thing right now. A lot of people are, finding ways of repurposing clothing by adding decorative pieces to cover up holes. But yeah, it can be hard to fix a bunch of holes in the same spot, unfortunately.
And I'm sure everybody possibly saw, but Parat does have a sewing machine, which is awesome, in their library of things. But I would just ask Meg, um, sometimes I think people are afraid to even try to hem something or to sew anything. Do you have any suggestions of how somebody could just start that process if they've never done anything like that before?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'll put my email in the chat also. You're welcome to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help people get started. I've started a lot of my friends on sewing. Sewing machine is actually very easy to use. Again, I direct everyone toward YouTube. There are so many good tutorials on YouTube. But I would say sewing a straight seam on a sewing machine is even easier than sewing something by hand. As long as you backstitch once at the beginning and once at the end. Have a good sharp pair of scissors. And an iron and an ironing board honestly makes a huge difference when you're hemming something. Ironing is half the work of sewing in general, but especially of hemming. You want to be able to get a nice flat fabric to work with when you're starting. And then when you're actually rolling the hem, having an iron to press it flat makes the hem look so much better and cleaner and more professional. But
Awesome,
yeah,
thank
happy to put
you.
my contact information in the chat as
That
well.
would be great. Janet, I think these were questions for you from Monica, but she's asking, could you please explain regenerative products? Are they really better? And also, I think she meant to say, she says, isn't organic dairy grass-fed? Um, Although milk and cheeses are also separately labeled grass-fed, what's the difference? So I think she's asking, what's the difference between organic and grass-fed? I don't think they're the same. So if you could answer about those two items.
Okay. Um, with regard to grass-fed and organic, grass-fed generally, as I understand it, that those animals are not cooped up in a in a small area, and they're allowed to go out in the fields, and they're uh, uh, but that I don't know the specifics actually, because organic, there are some when it's organic, it's often without antibiotics, without hormones. Um, and I'm not sure, I don't think that the grass-fed is that, but I don't feel that I can speak about the difference between the two of them. That's a good question.
Okay.
Um,
And sorry, did you just explain the regenerative products?
the regenerative products, if you have something specific, I'm not able to tell you about that either.
It's very much like a circular economy for agriculture. So it means the farm is basically creating a life cycle for their farm that they can reuse everything. So they're composting, they're not using chemicals, and they're able to continue, like they're using rainwater, things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you,
So
Maggie.
again, the question is, I think that Maggie may have answered your question.
Yeah.
Is that what was the question specifically about regenerative products?
I think what they were, which you're right. I think
Yeah.
Maggie definitely clarified
Okay.
that. Um, Maggie, I had a question, which was sort of if you're just getting started with trying to, remove toxic products from your household, are there like maybe 3 or 5 that you would suggest to, if it's your first time getting started, that are maybe of utmost importance, or is it hard to narrow
I
it
think it's
down?
easy to look under your kitchen sink. I mean, just getting
Hmm.
rid of like any of the a lot of the Cascade or the Tide or Bounty, those name brands that we kind of grew up with, a lot of those really have some toxic stuff in them. And you can research. There's a website. It's EWG. It's on one of those certifications, and they everything on their website is supposed to be non-toxic. A lot of it is still in plastic bottles, so it's a bit complex thing. But even
Yeah.
toilet cleaners, like we're all using these bleach, and you really don't have to use that, but each to their own on that one. That's a tricky one.
Sure. Well, it does seem like sort of soap or cleaners, whether it's on our body, whether it's in, the kitchen or the bathroom, wherever, it seems like all of those could be considered then.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, the biggest thing is our lawns. Like, what are we putting in our yards? I mean, it gets very tricky and complex, the toxic chemical thing. I mean, it's everywhere. But I like personal hygiene's an easy one to tackle because it's like that's the stuff you're putting on your body, and like you for sure don't want to be putting anything funky there. So
And I always say to my girls, like, your skin is your biggest organ. So really, if you want to focus on something, what are you putting on your skin?
Definitely. I don't know if anybody else amongst the four of you has a question for each other, or anything you want to emphasize to our participants, or Judy. I don't know if you would have any questions. I think you're
I
muted.
just
Oh,
checked
sorry, Judy.
the
Yeah.
question that was asked to me, if you don't mind, regarding
Yeah.
grass-fed and organic, and it was what I attempted to say was grass-fed refers to the animal's natural diet, eating only grass, but organic is USDA certified, where there's a certification guaranteeing that what they are fed is without pesticides and hormones and antibiotics. So that is what it is, the difference.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I had a question about for Maggie about um, at home, composting at home. You had a unit in your kitchen. I know at libraries I've worked at, including at Parat, we've tried food scrap collection, and it became a source of insects, and it's never really worked out for that reason because well, for one thing, people put things in there that they shouldn't. And then even when you put the appropriate things in, it does attract, can attract some insects. So the unit that you had, is that something, how does that work? And does it prevent that?
Oh, this is a tricky one because I'm like, I don't know if buying a unit, the manufacturing of the unit itself, if it's causing more problems in the
Mm,
world. But I will say that that company is called The Mill, and they have recently partnered with Whole Foods, and Whole Foods is putting them in all of their stores to compost all of their food waste in their food prep areas.
hmm
So, and they also have a system in place where you can box up every night it turns to dirt and you can box it up and send it to a farm. But I think that I think the best thing that we can do is encourage Holly Hill Transfer Station to get I believe it's an anaerobic digester. It's actually kind of a big machine, and we can just go dump our stuff in, and it turns it into dirt. So that's like a big. There's a lot that Waste Free Greenwich is doing behind the scenes to make a big difference. So I think Julie's probably better to take that one.
Okay, thank you.
So just to elaborate with what Maggie said, at Holly Hill, we're actually working on a white paper for several ideas to make the town more self-sufficient and not to be hauling our food waste so far away. And we can also create compost that can be given back to the community. So stay tuned for that. And Judy, you might find that composting at Parat will be easier when you have access to the bins right in Binney Park, that you can just put it in there 24/7, right after work or take turns or, and that goes for the whole community. Please pre-register and try it out. You can also freeze your scraps or put them in your refrigerator, kind of slows down the decomposition process, and you won't get any pests that way. Yeah, it makes it a little more pleasant.
The collection bins that you're going to have, are those limited to residents? Do you have to live in town to access those?
Yes. So when you register for the app, then the conservation department will look through kind of your registration materials and give you approval.
I see. Okay. Because some things like the beach passes and are open to employees in town, sometimes with a fee, so that might be for future consideration because as a non-resident, I couldn't bring my scraps
Great.
to Binney Park. So
for the library, you could probably just register as the library.
as a library.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Thank you.
for the smart bins, do they use the BPI compostable bags as well?
You can use the bags.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Cool.
Wonderful. Anybody else have any other questions? Looks like folks are saying thank you. Thank you all for your work for a better, cleaner world. Somebody asked if there's a recording. This is being recorded tonight and it will go up on Parat's YouTube channel. Somebody did just ask, Barbara just asked, where will we get our compost bags with the bins?
So Waste Free Greenwich sells them on Wednesdays. We'll also be having training sessions right at the bins. If you sign up for our newsletter, you'll see the announcements there. Also, you can buy them at Greenwich Green and Clean and Greenwich Botanical Center. And they're available online. Just make sure that they say BPI certified compostable. That certification is very important.
Okay, wonderful. A few more folks are saying thank you so much. What a wonderful program.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, one more question for Monica. Will Waste Free be at the new OG Farmers Market?
Okay, so we will have a table, but there will not be food scrap drop off there right now. We're hoping that may change in the future. But we will retain our hours at Living Hope from 12 to 2 in Old Greenwich on Wednesdays. And we've been trying to keep everyone updated with the OG Farmers Market. They just went to P&Z to get approval for a new market at St. Catherine's Church in Riverside.
Great. All right, thank you all so much.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Julie, quickly before we disband, do we want the four of us to smile and take a screenshot so we can use that picture for our
idea? Yes.
I can take a screenshot as well. Everybody smiling?
I do and smile.
Yeah.
1 second. One more smile. All right. Wonderful. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Excellent program.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Have a good night.